The blood moon hung low in the sky, its light spilling across the clearing like liquid silver. The whole pack had gathered, men, women, and wolves, standing in a wide circle beneath the sacred oak. Every year, the blood moon ceremony was the same. The moon goddess would reveal fated mates through the pull of the bond, and the chosen pair would seal their fate before the pack. But this year, every eye was on Celine Vale. Her hands trembled as she stood at the center of the circle, dressed in a white gown that brushed her bare feet. The fabric shimmered faintly under the moonlight, and her dark hair, braided with silver thread, gleamed against her pale skin. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Tonight, she would be claimed. Tonight, she would belong. She'd dreamed of this moment since she was a child, standing before her pack, hearing the Alpha's deep voice say her name with pride. Darius Kane. The Alpha of Bloodfang. Strong. Fearless. The man she had loved quietly for years. He was everything a leader should be, tall, broad-shouldered, with piercing grey eyes and a voice that made even warriors fall silent. But when he looked at Celine now, there was no warmth in his gaze, only something cold and unreadable. The elders finished their chant, and the moonlight pulsed brighter. A gasp rippled through the crowd as the invisible bond flared, silver threads of light connecting Darius and Celine for all to see. The goddess had spoken. They were fated. Celine's breath caught. Her heart soared. This was it. This was love. Fate. Forever. She stepped closer, smiling through tears. Darius, she whispered. It's us. But Darius didn't smile. He didn't reach for her. Instead, he raised his hand, silencing the murmurs around them. His jaw tightened. I, Alpha Darius of Bloodfang, he said, voice loud and steady, reject you, Celine Vale, as my mate. The clearing froze. For a moment, the world stopped breathing. Celine blinked. Surely she'd misheard him. What? She whispered, her voice breaking. You can't mean that. But his eyes were hard. Unforgiving. I do. You're weak, Celine. You've always been weak. I need a mate who can stand beside me, not one who hides behind the pack. The words hit like knives. Laughter rippled through the circle, low, cruel snickers from pack members who had always whispered behind her back. Celine's throat closed. I've trained, she said, her voice shaking. I fought beside you. You know me, Darius. You can't. I can, he snapped. And I will. Her vision blurred with tears. She took a step forward, reaching for him, but he turned away as if the sight of her disgusted him. Leave, Celine. You're no longer welcome in Bloodfang territory. Her knees went weak. You're rejecting me, in front of everyone? Yes, he said flatly. Better they see now than later. A leader doesn't pair with weakness. Someone in the crowd whispered, pathetic. Another snickered. Celine's best friend, Myra, pushed forward from the crowd, eyes wide. Alpha, stop this. You can't just. Enough, Darius growled, his voice echoing. The bond is broken. The silver light between them flickered and vanished. Celine gasped, the pain searing through her chest like fire. It wasn't just emotional. The mate bond tearing apart was physical agony, like her soul had been ripped in two. She stumbled backward, clutching her chest. Please, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Don't do this. You felt it too, the bond, the pull. I know you did. Darius looked over his shoulder, his expression a mask of ice. What I felt was pity. And with that, he walked away. The crowd parted for him, whispering and pointing as Celine fell to her knees in the dirt. She could still feel the echo of the bond burning in her chest, turning to ash. Myra tried to help her up, but Celine shook her off, trembling. No. Don't. I can't stay here. Celine. I can't, she cried, voice cracking. Not here. Not after this. Before anyone could stop her, she shifted, her body bursting into a sleek white wolf form, her fur glowing under the moonlight. With a heartbroken snarl, she sprinted into the forest. Behind her, laughter echoed. And Darius didn't look back. The forest swallowed her whole. Branches clawed at her fur as she ran, faster and farther than she ever had before. The moonlight struggled to reach through the thick canopy, painting everything in cold shades of silver and shadow. Her heart ached, her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. She ran until the sounds of the pack faded behind her, until the scent of home disappeared. Only then did she slow, panting, trembling, her paws sinking into the soft earth. She lifted her muzzle and howled, a sound full of pain and betrayal that echoed through the trees. But no one answered. When she finally collapsed, it was beside a moss-covered stone in a place she didn't recognize. The air was heavy here, darker, charged with something ancient and powerful. She'd heard stories of this place, the Shadowlands. A cursed forest where no wolf dared to tread. Where the Shadow King ruled, unseen and merciless. Maybe that's what I deserve, she whispered to herself, shifting back into human form. The night air bit at her bare skin, her white dress torn and dirty. Maybe this is where weak wolves go to die. She hugged her knees, shivering. The silence was thick, no wind, no crickets, no sound at all. And then, a low growl rumbled from the darkness. Celine froze. Her pulse spiked. She turned slowly, eyes wide. Between the trees, a pair of golden eyes glowed. "Who's there?" she called, her voice trembling. "Show yourself." The growl deepened, echoing through the trees. She stumbled back, heart hammering. From the shadows stepped a man, or something close to one. He was tall, impossibly tall, with broad shoulders and hair black as ink. His bare chest caught the faint moonlight, revealing scars that looked carved by claws, not weapons. His eyes glowed gold, not like a wolf's, but brighter. Older. He smelled like smoke and rain and something wild. Dangerous. "You're far from home, little wolf," he said, his voice low and deep, smooth as dark velvet. "Do you have a death wish?" Celine swallowed hard. I didn't mean to trespass. I was running. I didn't know. Everyone knows where my forest begins," he interrupted. "Yet you ran here anyway." She hesitated. "I had nowhere else to go." He studied her, his gaze sharp. "You're bleeding." Only then did she notice the scratches on her arms, the blood streaking her side. She lifted a trembling hand. "It's nothing." He stepped closer. The air grew colder, thicker. "Nothing," he echoed. "You reek of pain. Of rejection." Her breath hitched. "You can smell that." "I can feel it," he said simply. "It clings to you like smoke." She tried to step back, but the moss-covered stone caught her heel. She stumbled, and he moved, fast as a shadow, catching her by the arm. His grip was strong, but not cruel. His skin was hot, burning against hers. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, the world went still. The same strange pulse she'd felt once before during the blood moon ceremony, faint but real, flared in her chest again. "What are you?" she whispered. His lips curved slightly. "Some call me a monster. Others call me king." Her heart thudded. The Shadow King. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "So they still tell stories." Celine swallowed hard. "They say you kill anyone who enters your land." He tilted his head. "Do I look like I've killed you?" Her lips parted. "Not yet." For a moment, his expression softened, something unreadable flickering in those golden eyes. Then he released her arm and turned away. "Come." "What?" she stammered. "Where?" "You're freezing, and you'll bleed out before sunrise." "My camp isn't far." She blinked. "Why would you help me?" He glanced over his shoulder, his gaze intense. "Because," he said quietly, "I know what it feels like to be betrayed by your own." Her breath caught. There was something in his tone, something broken. She wanted to ask more, but exhaustion won out. When he offered his hand, she hesitated only a second before taking it. His fingers were warm, steady, and when he touched her, the ache in her chest eased, just slightly. The walk through the Shadowlands was silent except for the soft rustle of leaves. The deeper they went, the stranger the forest became, trees that shimmered faintly, glowing veins running through their bark like liquid silver, and mist that curled around their feet like living breath. Celine whispered, "This place, it feels alive." "It is," he replied. "The forest watches. It remembers." "That's comforting," she said dryly. He glanced at her, and to her surprise, a faint smile tugged at his lips. You have spirit. That's rare here. They walked until the trees opened into a clearing. Before them stood a vast stone fortress rising from the earth itself, half covered in vines and shadows. Torches burned along its walls, their flames strange, blue instead of gold. Selene stopped, staring. You live here. I rule here, he corrected. Welcome to my kingdom. Inside, the air was warmer, the halls echoing with the faint hum of power. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. The people she saw, if they could be called that, were unlike any wolves she'd known. Some had glowing eyes, some bore scars that pulsed with silver light. They looked at her with suspicion. One woman with pale hair and piercing eyes approached. My king, she said sharply, her gaze sliding to Selene. Who is this outsider? She's under my protection, he said without hesitation. See that she's tended to. The woman frowned. Since when do we shelter strays? Since I said so. The room went silent. The woman bowed stiffly and led Selene down a corridor lined with flickering torches. Selene glanced back at the Shadow King, at Kale. He was watching her still, his eyes unreadable. When the woman, Vera, she'd later learn, left her in a small chamber, Selene sank onto the bed, finally letting herself breathe. The pain of rejection still lingered, but something else had taken root now. Curiosity. And something she couldn't yet name. Who was Kale, really? And why did the air itself seem to bend around him? Outside her window, the forest whispered. And far away, under the same moon, Alpha Darius Kane stood on a cliff, staring into the darkness, his jaw clenched. She's gone into the Shadowlands, his beater said behind him. Then she's as good as dead, Darius replied, though his voice lacked conviction. He turned away, but something deep inside him stirred a cold flicker of unease. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure if rejecting Selene Vale had been his choice. Or his mistake. When Selene woke, it was to warmth and silence. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The bed beneath her was soft, layered with furs that smelled of smoke and pine. A faint blue glow slipped through the high window, lighting the stone walls with an unearthly shimmer. Then she remembered. The forest. The golden eyes. The Shadow King. Her pulse quickened. She sat up, wincing as pain shot through her ribs. Fresh bandages wrapped her wounds, clean and neatly tied. Someone had taken care of her while she slept. A folded tunic and trousers lay on a chair nearby, simple, but made from fine black fabric that almost seemed to drink in the light. Selene hesitated, then changed out of her torn gown and into the clothes. They fit perfectly, which made her uneasy. Someone had measured her while she slept. A knock sounded at the door before she could overthink it. Enter, she said softly. The door opened, and the pale-haired woman from before stepped inside. Her movements were sharp and precise, her blue eyes assessing Selene like a blade. She carried a tray with steaming broth and bread. You're awake, the woman said. Good. Eat. Selene took the tray, murmuring thanks. You're Vera, right? Yes. The king said you were not to be disturbed until morning. He also said you ask too many questions. Selene blinked, surprised. He said that. Vera's mouth twitched. He says it about everyone. She turned toward the door, then paused. Don't wander too far. The castle has corners that don't forgive strangers. With that cryptic warning, she left. Selene stared after her, frowning. Corners that don't forgive. What did that even mean? She finished the soup, thick, earthy, surprisingly good, and stood. She couldn't stay trapped in this room forever. She had to see where she was, who these people were, and, most of all, who he really was. The hallway beyond her door stretched long and narrow, lit by floating globes of pale blue fire. Strange runes carved into the stones pulsed faintly as she passed. The air carried a low hum, like a heartbeat buried in the walls. At the end of the corridor, heavy doors stood ajar, spilling warm light into the passage. Selene pushed them open and stepped into what looked like a great hall. Dozens of people filled the space, men and women with eyes that shimmered faintly in the torchlight. Some talked quietly, some sharpened blades. The air felt tense, alert, as if everyone here was waiting for something to happen. Then she saw him. Kale sat on a raised dais at the far end of the hall, leaning over a table covered in maps. A scarred man stood beside him, murmuring about patrol routes. Kale listened with that same still intensity that made the air seem to bend around him. Celine's heart stuttered. He looked different in daylight, less like a legend, more like a man, though no less dangerous. His black hair fell in waves to his shoulders, and the dark shirt he wore stretched across muscles that moved like coiled steel. Without looking up, he said, "You're far from your room, little wolf." Celine froze. He knew the moment I entered. "I didn't mean to interrupt," she said, forcing her voice steady. He finally lifted his head. Those golden eyes caught hers like a trap. "You didn't. I was expecting you." She frowned. "You were. You don't strike me as someone who sits quietly when there are answers to find." He stood, crossing the room in 3 slow steps. The hall fell silent as everyone turned to look. Celine fought the urge to retreat. Kale stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You should rest," he said quietly. "You're still weak." "I've been weak before," she replied, surprising even herself with the edge in her tone. "I'm tired of it." Something flickered in his gaze, approval, maybe. "Good. Then you'll fit in here better than I thought." She glanced around. "Here? With you?" "You crossed into my realm," Kale said. "That makes you part of it. Until I decide otherwise." Celine bristled. "I didn't choose that." "Neither did I," he said simply. The blunt honesty caught her off guard. For a moment, they just stared at each other, the Alpha's reject and the cursed king, 2 broken creatures standing under the same roof. The scarred man cleared his throat. "My king, the border scouts await orders." Kale's gaze lingered on Celine. Then he turned away. "I'll be there soon." As he walked back to the table, Celine followed him with her eyes. What kind of man commands this place? He was calm but carried a storm inside him, she could feel it, like thunder behind his skin. Vera appeared at Celine's side. "You should eat more," she said softly. "He doesn't like to see his guests faint. He doesn't seem the type to care." "You'd be surprised," Vera murmured. "He has more heart than he admits. He hides it so it can't be broken again." Celine looked at her sharply. "Again?" But Vera only smiled, secretive. "Ask him yourself." That night, Celine couldn't sleep. The castle breathed around her, stone shifting, wind whispering through cracks. Finally, she gave up trying and wandered into the courtyard. The moon hung high, casting a silver glow over the fortress walls. The air smelled of pine and cold metal. Kale was there. He stood alone near a fountain, head tilted back to the sky. Moonlight touched his face, softening its hard lines. For a moment, he looked almost human. "You move quietly," he said without turning. "You don't sleep much," she replied. "I can't," he said. "Too many ghosts." Celine hesitated, then stepped closer. "You said you know what it's like, to be betrayed by your own." He looked at her finally, and the shadows deepened around them. "I do." "What happened?" Kale's jaw tightened. "Once, I was part of a pack. A brotherhood I would have died for. I was their strongest warrior and their greatest threat. When they wanted more power, they made a deal with a creature they didn't understand. It demanded a sacrifice." Celine's chest tightened. "You?" He nodded once. "They bound me to the shadows. I became what they feared most. So I killed them." The words hung heavy between them. "You think that makes me a monster," he said quietly. "I think it makes you a survivor," she answered. Something like surprise flickered across his face. For a moment, the hardness melted. "You're strange, Celine Vale." "You keep calling me that," she said. "Why?" "Because you haven't told me what to call you instead." She smiled faintly. "Just Celine." "Then rest, Celine. The forest may accept you, but the darkness here has teeth." As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. "You ran from something that tried to break you," he said. "Don't let it chase you here." Celine didn't answer. But when she returned to her room, the ache in her chest felt lighter, just enough to breathe. Morning came slowly in the Shadowlands. Sunlight couldn't pierce the canopy, only thin strands of silver drifting through the mist. When Selene stepped into the courtyard, the fortress was already awake. Dozens of warriors trained in the open square, moving with fluid, animal precision. Steel clashed against steel. Others practiced in wolf form, larger, darker than any wolves she'd ever seen, their fur streaked with strange patterns of shadow. Vera spotted her and waved her over. "You're early." "I couldn't sleep," Selene said. "Then you might as well make yourself useful. Here." She handed Selene a wooden staff. "Show me how you fight." Selene blinked. "I'm not." "Show me," Vera repeated. Selene sighed, took a stance, and swung. Vera blocked easily, spinning the staff in a blur. Within seconds, Selene was flat on her back, staring at the grey sky. Vera looked down at her, expression mild. "You fight like someone who expects to lose." Selene groaned. "I wonder why." Vera offered a hand. Again. They sparred until sweat slicked Selene's skin and her arms trembled. Each time she fell, she rose again. Something hot and stubborn burned in her chest. When they finally stopped, Vera smiled, a real one this time. "Better. The strength is there. You just don't trust it yet." Before Selene could reply, a voice cut through the air. "Enough." Kale stood at the edge of the courtyard, his expression unreadable. The warriors instantly straightened. Even Vera bowed her head slightly. "She learns fast," Vera said. "Faster than most." Kale's golden eyes lingered on Selene. "Faster, maybe. But not careful enough. She'll get herself killed outside these walls." Selene wiped sweat from her forehead. "Then teach me." The courtyard went still. No one spoke to the king like that. Kale's mouth curved slightly. "You command me now?" "I'm asking," she said. "You said the darkness here has teeth. If I'm going to stay, I need to learn to bite back." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded once. "At dawn. Don't make me regret it." Training with Kale was nothing like sparring with Vera. He was relentless. Every strike he made tested her limits, every word cut close to truth. Again, he ordered, catching her staff mid-swing and twisting it from her hands. She lunged for it, but he caught her wrist, spinning her around until her back hit his chest. His breath brushed her ear. "You hesitate. Stop thinking and trust your instincts." Her pulse raced. She could feel the heat of him, the solid weight of muscle and shadow. It was maddening. "I can't fight if you're," she started, but he released her, stepping back with a faint smirk. "Then learn to fight even when distracted." She glared at him, cheeks burning. "You're impossible." "So they tell me." They trained until her arms ached and her heart hammered. When she finally collapsed onto the grass, Kale crouched beside her. "Pain means you're alive," he said. "Remember that." She looked up at him, breathing hard. "You enjoy tormenting me, don't you?" He tilted his head. "I enjoy watching you realize what you're capable of." Before she could answer, a horn sounded from the wall above. The warriors froze. Kale's eyes sharpened. "Scouts," Vera called from the tower. "They've returned from the northern border." Kale rose immediately, motioning for Selene to follow. In the war room, 2 scouts knelt before him, mud and blood streaking their armor. "Speak," Kale commanded. "Alpha Darius Kane," one panted. "He crossed the border last night with 20 warriors. They're tracking someone." Selene's stomach dropped. "He's hunting me." Kale's jaw clenched. "Foolish. I have to talk to him," she blurted. "If I go back, maybe." "No," his voice cracked like thunder. "He made his choice. He rejected you. He has no claim on you now." Selene flinched but met his gaze. "People will die because of me." Kale stepped closer, his presence filling the room. "People die because of pride and fear, not because of you. I won't let his arrogance stain my land." "Then what will you do?" He smiled, a cold, dangerous thing. "Show him that the shadows don't bow to alphas." Vera touched his arm gently. "Kale." He shook his head. "Prepare the defenses. If Bloodfang wolves enter the Shadowlands again, they won't leave." Selene's voice trembled. "Don't kill them because of me." Kale turned back to her, golden eyes blazing. You think I'm doing this for you? Aren't you? I'm doing this because I protect what's mine. The words hung between them, hot and heavy. Selene whispered, I'm not yours. Not yet, he said softly. But you will be. That night, Selene stood on the balcony outside her chamber, staring into the forest. The air smelled of rain and thunder. Below, the warriors prepared for battle, sharpening blades, checking armor, whispering prayers to a goddess that hadn't answered in centuries. Vera joined her quietly. He's never let anyone stay here before, she said. You've changed something. Selene hugged herself. I didn't mean to. Change doesn't ask for permission, Vera said. It just happens. They watched Kale across the courtyard, giving orders to his commanders, every movement precise and commanding. The moonlight caught in his hair, turning the black strands silver. He'll protect you, Vera said. But he can't protect your heart. That's yours to guard. Selene looked down at her hands. Too late for that. Far beyond the trees, a distant howl rose, the cry of bloodfang wolves entering enemy land. The sound made her blood run cold. Vera's eyes met hers. War comes, little wolf. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear, a flicker of power stirred warm, pulsing, waiting to be set free. The night before the storm broke, the forest was eerily still. Even the air felt heavy, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. Selene couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling of her chamber, the faint flicker of torchlight tracing shadows across the stone. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Darius's face, the coldness in his eyes, the sound of his voice when he called her weak. She sat up suddenly, heart pounding. The thought came unbidden, why did he really reject me? It wasn't just cruelty. She'd known Darius her whole life, his pride was sharp, but his cruelty had limits. Something else had been behind those words. Something darker. Unable to bear the silence, she slipped out of her room. The corridors were quiet, the torches burning low. When she stepped into the open courtyard, the moon hung full above the towers, its light pale and perfect. Kale stood at the far end, shirtless, training alone with twin blades. His movements were a dance, smooth, controlled, deadly. The shadows themselves seemed to obey him, sliding with each turn of his wrist. She froze, watching in silence. He looked untouchable. Powerful. Everything Darius had claimed she wasn't. Kale stopped suddenly, lowering his weapons. His gaze flicked to her without surprise. You move like a whisper, Selene. But the forest hears everything. I wasn't spying, she said quickly. I didn't say you were. He smiled faintly. You couldn't sleep. She hesitated, then shook her head. Every time I close my eyes, I see him. Kale's expression softened. He sheathed his blades. Pain is stubborn. It lingers when it should fade. Selene wrapped her arms around herself. It's not just pain. It's confusion. Why would he do that? We were fated. The moon goddess chose us. Fate, Kale said, his voice low, is only a path. You still choose whether to walk it. She looked at him sharply. You don't believe in the bond? He stepped closer, the moonlight catching in his golden eyes. I believe in choices. Bonds can be broken. Hearts can change. But sometimes, he reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Sometimes fate makes mistakes so we can find what's real. Her breath caught, her pulse quickening. And what's real to you? You'll see, in time, he said quietly, dropping his hand. They stood in silence, the night wrapping around them. Then Kale turned toward the forest beyond the walls. You want to know why he rejected you? Selene blinked. You know? I know fear when I smell it. And Darius Kane reeked of it. Fear? Of what? Kale's eyes glowed faintly, catching the light. Of you. She shook her head. That's not possible. He called me weak. Because he wanted you to believe it, Kale said. He saw something in you, a strength he couldn't control. A power that frightened him. Men like Darius don't share power. They crush it before it can rise. Selene's pulse thundered. Power? I'm no one. My family barely held rank. Your blood says otherwise. Her stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Kale turned fully to face her. The first night I found you, I felt something. A pulse in the air. The forest responded to you. That only happens when the old blood stirs. The old blood. The blood of the Lunaris line, he said. The moon goddess's descendants. They were said to carry her power, light that could heal or destroy. Celine's mouth went dry. That's a myth. So is the Shadow King, he said, his lips curling slightly. And yet, here I stand. She stared at him, her heart pounding. You think I'm one of them? I don't think, Kale said softly. I know. You've just forgotten what you are. Celine took a step back, shaking her head. No. That's impossible. If I had that kind of power, I'd feel it. Kale's expression darkened. You do feel it. You just mistake it for pain. She swallowed hard, her throat tight. You're wrong. Am I? He moved closer, his voice low and steady. You ran into the Shadowlands. Every wolf who's ever crossed that border has died within hours. But you. The forest let you in. It healed you. It recognized you. Celine's knees felt weak. If that's true, then what happens now? Kale studied her for a long moment. Now, you learn what you were meant to be. And if I don't want to? His golden eyes held hers. Then you'll still become it. Destiny doesn't ask permission. Before she could reply, Vera appeared in the doorway, her expression grave. Kale. Scouts at the Western Ridge. Darius's warriors are closer than we thought. Kale's calm mask returned instantly. How close? Half a day's march, Vera said. They're tracking her scent. Celine's stomach twisted. They're coming for me. Kale turned to her. Then we prepare. What are you going to do? His smile was sharp, dangerous. Show them that the Shadowlands don't take kindly to trespassers. Dawn broke like fire. The Shadowlands glowed silver and blue, mist curling through the trees as the fortress hummed with activity. Warriors moved with purpose, checking weapons, sharpening blades, setting traps along the borders. Kale stood in the courtyard, giving orders to Torin, the scarred lieutenant who never seemed to smile. Double the guards on the southern ridge. Vera, strengthen the wards near the river. I want the forest awake when they cross. Torin glanced at Celine as she stepped out into the courtyard. The girl's awake. You still plan to keep her here when she's the reason they're coming? Kale didn't look at him. She stays. Torin scoffed. You're getting soft, Kale. In a blink, Kale's hand shot out, gripping Torin's throat. The air crackled with power, shadows swirling at his feet. Say that again. Torin's eyes flashed. I said what I said. Kale's voice was low and deadly. I've killed men for less. Don't test me. After a tense heartbeat, Kale released him. Torin staggered back, rubbing his neck but not daring to meet his eyes. Celine's voice broke the silence. You didn't have to do that. Kale turned to her, his expression unreadable. You don't understand my people yet. They respect strength, not kindness. Maybe they'd respect you more if you showed both. He smiled faintly. Maybe I don't want respect. Maybe I want obedience. Celine crossed her arms. Then you'll have neither. For a second, he just stared at her, then he laughed, a sound that rumbled deep and low. You're the first person to speak to me like that in a very long time. Maybe that's why you're so insufferable. His grin widened. Careful, little wolf. You might start sounding like my equal. Training began soon after. Kale led her to a clearing behind the fortress where ancient stones jutted from the ground like broken teeth. The air shimmered faintly, thick with old magic. Why here? She asked. Because this place remembers, Kale said. Every strike, every victory, every death. The ground here makes you stronger or kills you faster. Comforting, she muttered. He tossed her a wooden staff. Show me what you can do. Celine frowned. You've already seen what I can do. Which is, not much. Then prove me wrong. They circled each other slowly. Celine struck first, quick and sharp, but Kale blocked easily, twisting her weapon from her grasp and pressing the tip of his blade to her throat before she even blinked. Dead, he said simply. She glared at him. That was unfair. War is unfair. He stepped back, tossing her the staff again. Again. They fought for hours. Each time she fell, he forced her to get back up. Her arms ached, her lungs burned, and frustration clawed at her chest. Why are you doing this? She gasped after her 10th fall. Because you can't keep hiding behind fear, he said. You want to know why Darius rejected you? Because you were afraid of your own power. You let him decide what you were worth. Celine's eyes blazed. And what do you know about fear? Everything, Cale said softly. I've lived with it long enough to know how to kill it. Something in his tone, raw and honest, hit her harder than any strike. She gritted her teeth, grabbed the staff, and attacked again. This time, she didn't hold back. Her movements grew faster, sharper, instinct taking over. Cale blocked one blow, then another, but she ducked low, sweeping his legs out from under him. He hit the ground with a grunt, staring up at her in surprise. Celine pointed the staff at his chest, panting. Dead, she said. For a heartbeat, silence hung between them. Then Cale's lips curved into a slow smile. You're learning. Celine dropped the staff and collapsed beside him, laughing breathlessly. I hate you. I know, he said. It's what makes this fun. They sat in the grass, the air thick with heat and the scent of sweat. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Cale said quietly, You did something just now. When you moved. The air shifted. Celine frowned. Shifted. You pulled energy without realizing it. You're starting to awaken. She looked down at her hands. That's impossible. Nothing is impossible here, Cale said. The forest responds to power. When you stop fighting it, it will answer you. Celine stared at her palms, feeling a faint pulse beneath her skin like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. I can't control it. You will, Cale said. With time. She glanced at him, her voice barely above a whisper. Why are you helping me? Cale's gaze softened. Because when I look at you, I see who I was before the darkness. And because the moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. She sent you here for a reason. Celine's heart ached. And what if I fail? What if I'm not who you think I am? He reached out, brushing his thumb across her cheek, wiping away a streak of dirt. Then I'll still be here. Because I don't save people for what they might become. I save them because no one ever saved me. Her breath caught. For a moment, neither moved. The air between them shimmered with something electric, something alive. Then Cale stood, breaking the spell. Rest, he said. Tomorrow, you'll need your strength. For what? He looked out toward the forest, where dark clouds gathered on the horizon. Because Darius will cross the border by dawn. And when he does, the world you knew will end. That night, as thunder rumbled in the distance, Celine stood at her window, staring into the endless forest. Her heart was torn between fear and fire. Maybe Cale was right. Maybe she'd been hiding all her life. But when the storm came, she wouldn't run this time. For the first time since her rejection, she wasn't just the weak girl who'd been cast aside. She was something more, something waiting to wake. And when it did, the world would remember her name. The air tasted like metal. At dawn, the sky bled orange over the jagged peaks, and the Shadowlands held its breath. Celine stood on the castle wall beside Cale, watching mist coil through the valley below. From here, she could see everything, the dark sweep of forest, the silver thread of the river, and beyond it, movement. Wolves. 20 at least, their forms slicing through the fog. The Bloodfang insignia gleamed on their armor. They've crossed into our land, Cale said quietly. His voice was calm, but the golden gleam in his eyes told another story. Celine's hands curled around the railing. They're looking for me. They won't find you, Cale said. They shouldn't even be here, she whispered. This is your territory. Cale turned his head slightly, studying her. They think they're hunting prey. They don't realize they've stepped into a graveyard. Torin climbed the steps behind them, his scar catching the sunlight. Scouts say the Bloodfang wolves are led by Darius's beater. Morin. Celine's heart sank. Morin, cruel, loyal, and vicious. She remembered his sneer the night she was rejected. He'd laughed when she ran. They won't stop, she said. They'll keep coming until they find me. Kale's gaze hardened. Then we'll make sure none of them return. Selene turned to him, desperate. You can't just kill them. They were my pack once. They stopped being your pack the moment they let him tear you apart, Kale said, his tone flat. If I spare them, they'll bring others. You know this. I can talk to them, she insisted. Maybe I can stop this. Kale's jaw clenched. No. You're not leaving this castle. You can't order me around. He turned to her fully now, his presence towering. I can, and I will. You are under my protection, Selene. I won't let your foolish hope get you killed. Her chest tightened. You think I'm weak. I think you're reckless, he said, his eyes burning into hers. And brave. And that's what makes you dangerous. The tension between them pulsed like electricity. The wind shifted, carrying the distant howl of the approaching wolves. Kale looked out at the horizon. They'll reach the border by nightfall. Torin, gather the warriors. We meet them at the ravine. Torin nodded and disappeared down the steps. Selene caught Kale's arm. Let me come. No. I can fight. Not yet. She stepped closer, her voice rising. You said it yourself. I'm not weak. So stop treating me like I am. Kale's gaze dropped to her hand gripping his arm. He exhaled slowly. This isn't about your strength. It's about control. The power inside you isn't ready. If it flares in battle, it could destroy everything, including you. Selene's voice softened. Then teach me. Help me control it. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he turned away. After the fight, he murmured. If there is an after. The Shadow Castle stirred with life as Kale's warriors prepared for war. Armor clanked, orders barked, blades gleamed beneath the torchlight. Vera worked among them, painting protective runes in ash along their forearms. When she reached Selene, her expression was calm but sharp. You want to fight, she said. Yes. Vera dipped her finger in the ash and drew a crescent symbol on Selene's wrist. Then you'll need focus. Not fury. I'm not angry. Vera smiled faintly. Then you're lying. Selene looked down. If I'd been stronger, none of this would have happened. Strength isn't only in claws and fangs, Vera said. It's in how you rise after you're broken. Remember that. Selene nodded, trying to steady her breathing. Selene nodded, trying to steady her breathing. Across the courtyard, Kale mounted a black stallion, his armor gleaming dark as night. He looked like something out of legend, power wrapped in shadow. His gaze found hers for one fleeting heartbeat. Stay inside the castle, he said. That's not a request. And then he was gone, his army moving like a wave of steel into the forest. Selene stood frozen as the gates closed behind them. The silence that followed was suffocating. Hours passed. The castle seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Every minute stretched like an eternity. Selene paced the courtyard, unable to sit still. Every time thunder rumbled in the distance, she flinched, imagining claws, teeth, Kale bleeding in the mud. Vera found her there, pacing like a caged wolf. You'll wear a hole in the stones, she said softly. I can't just sit here. You can, and you will. Selene turned on her. You don't understand. He's out there because of me. Vera's eyes softened. You think he's doing this for you? Selene blinked. Isn't he? He's doing this for all of us, Vera said. You just happen to be the spark that lit the fire. A roar echoed from far away, deep, inhuman, powerful. The sound rattled the windows. Selene's blood ran cold. That's him. Vera nodded grimly. The Shadow King doesn't roar unless he means to end something. When night fell, Kale returned. His armor was torn, streaked with blood. His wolves carried the scent of death and victory. Selene ran to meet them before she could think, the sight of him alive stealing her breath. You're hurt, she said. It's not mine, he said, his voice low. None of ours fell. The Bloodfang wolves retreated before dawn. Relief flooded her. Then it's over. Kale's expression darkened. No. This was only a warning. Darius will come next time himself. He walked past her toward the war room, but she caught his hand. You kept your promise. He stopped, looking down at their joined hands. I protect what's mine, he said. The words sent a tremor through her chest. Then maybe, she whispered, I should learn to protect myself too. Kale turned, golden eyes gleaming in the torchlight. Then tomorrow, you'll train again. The next morning broke bright and cold. Selene stood in the clearing Kale had chosen for her training, the same one where the ancient stones rose like silent witnesses. Vera stood a few paces away, her silver hair tied back, a wooden staff in her hands. Again, Vera said. Selene swung and missed. The staff whooshed through empty air as Vera sidestepped easily. You're thinking too much, Vera said. Your mind is noisy. Quiet it. I'm trying, Selene snapped, frustrated. Sweat glistened down her neck. But every time I close my eyes, I hear his voice, Darius's voice, telling me I'm nothing. Vera's eyes softened. Then stop hearing him. Hear yourself instead. Selene gritted her teeth. Easier said than done. No, Vera said, stepping closer. It's simple. Pain is loud. But you can make something louder. What? Purpose. The word sank deep. Vera lifted her staff again. Again. Selene attacked. Strike. Block. Twist. Duck. The rhythm became its own heartbeat. She stopped thinking about Darius, about fear, about failure. She let instinct take over. The air around her shifted, faint at first, then stronger. The ground trembled. Wind swirled through the clearing. Vera's eyes widened. Good. Don't fight it. Let it come. Selene felt warmth bloom in her chest, spreading to her arms, her fingertips. The edges of her vision shimmered silver. Vera, she gasped. What's happening? The old blood, Vera said softly. It's waking. The pulse of energy burst outward like a wave, scattering leaves, bending grass. The world flashed white for a heartbeat, and then it was gone. Selene dropped to her knees, trembling. I didn't mean to. Vera knelt beside her. You didn't lose control. You let go. There's a difference. Selene looked at her hands. A faint shimmer still danced across her skin, fading slowly. It felt like light and fire all at once. That's the gift of the Lunaris line, Vera said. Your power is tied to the moon itself. It responds to emotion, to instinct. The more you suppress it, the more dangerous it becomes. Selene swallowed hard. Kale said it could destroy everything. Vera's smile was small. He's not wrong. But it can also save everything if you master it. Selene exhaled shakily. Then teach me. I can guide you, Vera said. But you'll need him to anchor you. Selene blinked. Kale? Vera nodded. Your power is wild. His is old. Together, they can balance or consume each other. That's what destiny does when it binds opposites. That evening, Kale joined her at the edge of the training field. He said nothing at first, only watched as she practiced with the staff. The dying light caught in his hair, turning it bronze. The altar lay deep in the forest, half buried in vines and glowing faintly under the moonlight. Ancient symbols covered its surface, worn smooth by time. Selene reached out, her fingers trembling. It's beautiful. Kale watched her closely. Place your hand on the stone. Let it see you. She hesitated, then obeyed. The moment her skin touched the surface, the symbols flared with silver light. The air grew thick with energy, humming like a living thing. Selene, Kale said quietly, what do you feel? Everything, she whispered. It's like the forest is breathing with me. The glow intensified, swirling around her. The light wrapped around her arms, her body, her heart. Then a voice, soft, ancient, feminine, whispered in her mind. Child of the moon. You carry what was lost. Power does not destroy. Fear does. Selene gasped and stumbled back. Kale caught her before she fell. She spoke to me, she said, her eyes wide. The goddess, she spoke. Kale's grip tightened slightly. What did she say? Selene looked up at him, her eyes shining silver. That I was never meant to be weak. Kale's lips curved. Then believe her. They walked back in silence, the forest glowing faintly around them. At the castle gates, Kale stopped. "You're changing," he said. "I can feel it," she admitted. "And it scares me." He nodded. "It should. Power without fear is chaos." She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "And you? What are you afraid of?" Kale's golden eyes softened. "Losing control. Losing you." Her heart stumbled. Before she could answer, thunder rolled across the sky. Far in the distance, a wolf howled a long, angry cry that made her blood run cold. Kale's face hardened again. "Darius." Celine's pulse quickened. "His coming." Kale drew his sword, the blade gleaming darkly in the moonlight. "Then let him. The Shadowlands are ready." Celine's eyes shone silver as she lifted her chin. "So am I." The moon hung red and full, bathing the Shadowlands in a strange, haunting glow. It was the calm before the storm, the stillness that came when the world waited to bleed. Celine stood on the balcony, gripping the stone rail so tightly her knuckles turned white. Below her, Kale's warriors moved in organized silence, preparing for battle. Torches flickered along the walls. Swords glimmered like a line of stars ready to fall. She could feel it, the tension humming through the ground, through her veins. Darius was close. She could feel him, the way only a once-fated bond could connect two souls even when torn apart. The air shifted behind her. "You shouldn't be out here," Kale said, his voice low and steady. Celine turned. He stood in the doorway, dressed in dark armor that seemed to absorb the light. His presence filled the space effortlessly, commanding, calm, dangerous. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "Every time I close my eyes, I see him." Kale walked closer, his golden eyes glinting in the torchlight. "Do you fear him?" Celine hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe I used to. But now, I think I pity him." Kale studied her quietly, then nodded once. "Good. Pity is a weapon. It means he no longer owns your fear." Celine let out a slow breath. "You make it sound easy." "It isn't," Kale said, stepping beside her. "But neither is becoming who you are meant to be." They stood together in silence, the night wind tugging at their hair. For a moment, Celine wished time could stop, just this, just them, before everything broke. "Kale," she said softly, "if we win this, what happens then?" He turned to her, eyes warm despite the sharp edges of his face. "Then the Shadowlands will finally be free of his scent." She smiled faintly. "That's not what I meant." "I know," he said, his voice gentler now. "But some questions deserve answers only when the war ends." Before she could speak, a horn echoed from the forest's edge, a deep, rolling note that sent shivers down her spine. Kale's head snapped toward the sound. "He's here." The first clash came before dawn. Celine stood on the walls beside Vera, watching through the mist as figures emerged from the trees, wolves and men, armored and snarling, their eyes gleaming with the bloodfang mark. At their center was Darius Kane. Even from a distance, she recognized him, the proud stance, the silver armor, the cold eyes that once looked at her like she was his world. Vera murmured, "He brings fire with him." And he did. Behind his soldiers burned torches soaked in oil, flames licking the forest. Celine's stomach twisted. "He's setting the forest on fire." Kale's voice carried over the courtyard, strong and clear. "Archers, ready." Dozens of bowstrings tightened in unison. Shadows shifted along the walls, Kale's people blending into the darkness like smoke. "Wait for my mark," Kale said. The Bloodfang warriors advanced. Darius raised his sword, his voice booming. "Shadow King, give me the girl, and I'll spare your cursed land." Kale's laugh cut through the air, a deep, dark sound that chilled the night. "She's not yours to claim. Then she'll die with you." Darius roared. Kale lifted his hand. "Now." Arrows flew. The battle began. The forest erupted in chaos, wolves howling, steel clashing, fire meeting shadow. The sound was deafening, the scent of smoke and blood thick in the air. Celine gripped the stone rail, heart pounding as she watched Kale move like a storm below, his sword slicing through flames, his shadow bending to shield his warriors. Vera grabbed her arm. "Stay back. You're not ready." But Celine shook her head. "If I stay, people die." Before Vera could stop her, she ran. Down the stairs, through the chaos, into the fire. The battlefield was madness. Celine ducked as a wolf lunged past, crashing into a wall of flame. The air burned her lungs, but she kept moving, her eyes fixed on the silver armor ahead. "Darius," she shouted. He turned, his face pale beneath the soot and blood. "Celine." For a heartbeat, time froze. The look in his eyes was the same, haunted, angry, desperate. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. "You don't understand what he is." "I understand enough," she said, standing tall. "You destroyed me, Darius." "For what?" "Power. Pride." He took a step forward, hand outstretched. "You think he's saving you? He's using you. He's a monster, Celine." He killed his own pack. Celine's chest tightened. "And you think you're any different? You killed my spirit long before he ever found me." Something flickered in Darius's eyes, pain, maybe. Regret. But it was gone in an instant. "Come with me," he said, voice low. "We can still fix this. You belong with me." "No," she said quietly. "I don't." Darius's face hardened. "Then you'll die with him." He raised his sword. And Kale appeared between them, his blade intercepting the strike with a clash of sparks. "Touch her," Kale growled, "and I'll end you." Darius sneered. "So this is the Shadow King? A cursed wolf hiding behind his magic?" Kale's eyes blazed gold. "Say that again." Darius lunged. The two alphas collided in a flurry of steel and fury, each strike shaking the ground. Celine stumbled back, shielding her face from the sparks that flew as their blades met again and again. Kale fought like he was born for it, every move precise, deadly. But Darius was relentless, fueled by fury and jealousy. "You think she loves you?" Darius spat. "You're a monster wearing a crown of bones." Kale's eyes darkened. "And you're a coward who mistook fear for strength." Their swords locked. Kale twisted, disarming Darius and sending him crashing to the ground. "Yield," Kale said, blade at his throat. Darius laughed bitterly. "Go ahead. Kill me. Prove to her what you really are." Kale hesitated, and in that breath, Darius struck, slashing a dagger across Kale's side. "Kale!" Celine screamed, rushing forward. Kale staggered, blood darkening his armor. Darius rose, fury blazing in his eyes. "She'll never be yours." Celine didn't think. She didn't move by choice. The power inside her surged, roaring to life like a storm breaking its chains. Light exploded from her hands, silver and blinding. The ground trembled, fire twisting into spirals around her. The battle stopped. Darius froze, his dagger halfway raised. The light wrapped around him like vines of moonlight, holding him still. Celine's voice was calm, almost otherworldly. "I am not your prey. I am not your mistake." The light flared brighter, and with a crack of thunder, it threw Darius back across the clearing. When the glow faded, Celine collapsed, breathless. The world was silent. Kale caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy," he whispered. "You're safe." Her vision blurred. "I didn't mean to." "You did what you had to," he said. "You chose your power." His words faded into the hum of her heartbeat as darkness took her. When Celine woke, she was back in the castle. The ceiling above her was carved stone, faintly glowing with the same silver runes that lined Kale's throne room. The air smelled of smoke, rain, and pine. Her body ached, but the warmth under her skin told her she was alive. The door creaked open. Kale stepped in, his side bandaged, his movements slower than usual but steady. "You're awake," he said softly. Celine sat up. "You're hurt." He smiled faintly. "You should see the other guy." Her eyes widened. "Darius?" "Alive," Kale said. "Barely. Vera stopped me from finishing it." "Where is he now?" "Gone," Kale said, his voice darkening. "He crawled back to his pack. But this isn't over. The next time he returns, he won't come alone." Celine looked down at her hands. "I hurt him, Kale. The power, it just happened." "You didn't hurt him," Kale said. "You stopped him." "It didn't feel like control," she whispered. "It felt like fire. Like I could burn everything." Kale sat beside her, his hand brushing her wrist. That's what power is. It's not gentle. It's a weapon until you learn to wield it. And if I can't? He met her eyes. Then I'll hold it for you until you can. Something in his tone softened her fear. She exhaled slowly. You really believe I can control it? I've never believed in anything more, he said quietly. They sat in silence for a long moment, the world beyond their walls finally still. Then Celine asked, why didn't you kill him? Cale's gaze darkened. Because mercy is rarer than death. And because I wanted him to live knowing he lost you. Her heart stuttered. Cale. He turned to her fully, his voice low. You changed this place. You changed me. Celine swallowed. How? Before you, he said, I was only a shadow pretending to be a king. You made me remember the man beneath it. Her breath caught. And now? Now I'll fight for you, he said simply. Until the forest forgets my name. Outside, the rain began to fall, soft and steady, washing away the scent of blood from the air. Celine reached for his hand. Then we fight together. Cale's fingers intertwined with hers. Together, he echoed. That night, the castle was quiet again. The storm had passed, but the war was only beginning. From her window, Celine watched the moon rise high and bright, its light silvering the stones. The forest seemed alive beneath it, whispering her name. Somewhere deep inside, she felt the power stir again, no longer wild, but waiting. She smiled faintly, whispering into the night, let him come. Behind her, Cale stood in the shadows, watching. His voice was soft, almost reverent. She's not the same girl who ran from pain, he murmured to himself. She's becoming the light the darkness was always meant to serve. And far away, in the mountains beyond the forest, Darius Kane stood before his surviving warriors, his eyes blazing with fury. She's chosen her side, he said. Then we'll burn it to the ground. Lightning split the sky. The war for the Shadowlands had only just begun. The days after the battle passed in uneasy calm. The forest healed quickly, as if eager to erase the scent of blood, but the people did not. The walls of the Shadow Castle were alive with quiet tension, soldiers sharpening blades, scouts disappearing into the mist, healers moving like ghosts through the halls. Celine felt it too. The air itself vibrated with something new, a pull, deep and steady, that thrummed beneath her skin. Her power wasn't asleep anymore. It breathed with her, pulsing softly like a heartbeat she didn't fully control. She spent hours in the courtyard trying to harness it, learning how to summon the energy without letting it consume her. Vera watched from the edge of the training circle, arms crossed. Don't force it, Vera said. The more you fight it, the more it fights back. Celine wiped sweat from her brow. It's like trying to hold a storm in my hands. Then stop holding it, Vera said simply. Let it move through you. Power isn't meant to be caged. Celine exhaled slowly and closed her eyes. She pictured the moon, the glow, the stillness, the pull of tides and stars. Her heartbeat slowed. The air around her shimmered faintly. When she opened her eyes, threads of silver light floated from her fingertips, swirling gently like smoke. It was calm. Controlled. For the first time, it didn't hurt. Vera smiled faintly. Good. You're learning. Celine grinned, breathless. I did it. Don't celebrate yet, Vera warned. You've tamed a spark. But when the fire comes, you'll need more than focus. Celine's smile faded. The fire. Vera's gaze darkened. The goddess gives gifts only when the world demands them. And the world, Celine, is about to demand everything from you. That night, the castle gathered in the great hall for the first time since the battle. Torches burned low, their light glinting off armor and tired eyes. Cale sat at the head of the long table, his wounds mostly healed but his expression colder than ever. Torin spoke first, his voice gravelly. Scouts found Bloodfang banners near the mountain pass. Darius is gathering allies. Packs that were once neutral are rallying behind him. Cale's jaw tensed. They mean to invade. Within a week, Torin said. Maybe less. Vera looked to Cale. We can't match their numbers alone. Cale's gaze shifted to Celine, sitting quietly across the table. We won't need to. Everyone turned to look at her. Celine blinked. Me? Kale nodded. You awakened a force that can shift the balance of this war. The moon's gift wasn't meant for peace, it was meant for protection. Celine's stomach twisted. You want me to fight with it? I want you to lead with it, Kale said. The wolves follow strength. When they see what you are, some will join us instead of him. Vera added softly, they need to see the goddess in you, not the girl Darius rejected. Celine stared at the table, the weight of their words sinking in. And if I fail? Kale's voice softened. Then we fall with you. But I don't believe in failure, Celine. Not anymore. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the hall faded away. She saw something in him she hadn't before, not command, not duty, but faith. And it terrified her more than any enemy could. Later that night, unable to sleep, Celine wandered the corridors until she found herself at the moon altar again. The forest was quiet, heavy with mist. She placed her hand on the stone, hoping for peace, or a whisper, or anything to guide her. For a long moment, there was nothing. Then, faintly, a voice bloomed inside her mind, soft and ageless. Daughter of light. You fear what you must become. Celine's breath hitched. Goddess. The bond of the rejected and the cursed was written long before your pain. You are the bridge between shadow and moon. The world bends toward you now. I don't understand, she whispered. Why me? Because even broken hearts burn brighter than fire. The voice faded, leaving her alone in the silence, trembling and breathless. The words echoed in her chest long after the light faded. Broken hearts burn brighter than fire. When she returned to the castle, Kale was waiting in the corridor. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. You're restless tonight, he said. I could say the same for you, she replied. He smiled faintly. You were with her, weren't you? The goddess. Celine froze. How did you know? She always leaves her mark. He reached forward, brushing his fingers across her cheek. Your eyes are still glowing. She swallowed hard. She said I'm the bridge between shadow and moon. What does that mean? Kale's gaze deepened. It means you're the only one who can save both. Both. The wolves of the light, and those of the dark. He hesitated. It means you'll have to choose which side to burn. Celine shivered. I don't want to burn anything. Then learn control before the fire chooses for you, he said. Tomorrow, we begin again. And for the first time, Celine realized what it meant to bear destiny not as a blessing, but as a burden. Morning came grey and cold. Storm clouds rolled in from the north, carrying the scent of rain and war. Kale found Celine in the training field before dawn. She was already there, her palms glowing faintly as she practiced shaping the light. The energy responded faster now, swirling into patterns she could hold and bend at will. You've been up all night, he said. I couldn't stop, she admitted. The more I use it, the more it listens. Kale stepped closer, circling her. Show me. Celine focused. The air shimmered. Silver light spilled from her hands, forming a sphere that hovered in front of her. For a heartbeat, it was perfect, pure, balanced. Then it cracked. The sphere exploded outward in a shockwave, knocking her off her feet. Kale caught her before she hit the ground, his arms wrapping around her. Too much, he said. You can't pour emotion into it. It'll destroy you. Celine looked up, breathless. It feeds on emotion. I can feel it. That's why you can't trust it, Kale said, tightening his grip. Power that listens to your heart will betray you the moment your heart wavers. She met his eyes, their faces inches apart. Then teach me how not to waver. Kale hesitated, then released her, stepping back. There's a ritual, he said. An old one. It binds your essence to your power, to the part of you that the goddess touched. Will it work? If you survive it, he said. Celine blinked. That's comforting. Kale's mouth curved slightly. You'll have me there. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, he said softly. It's supposed to make you trust me. They performed the ritual that night. The moon altar glowed brighter than ever, the mist parting around it like a living thing. Vera and Torin stood guard nearby, silent witnesses. Selene knelt before the stone, her palms pressed flat against the surface. Kale stood behind her, his hands resting lightly on her shoulders. His touch grounded her, steadying the chaos inside. "Close your eyes," he murmured. "Listen for the heartbeat beneath the earth." She obeyed. The forest pulsed faintly around them, the rhythm slow and ancient. "Now," Kale said, his voice a whisper, "let your power meet mine." The air shifted. Shadows coiled around his hands, wrapping around her arms like dark silk. She felt them merge with the light under her skin, cold meeting warmth, shadow meeting silver. The collision burned. It was agony and ecstasy all at once. "Breathe," Kale said, his voice strained. "Don't fight it." She gasped as light and dark twisted together, spiraling upward. The altar blazed, silver and black, the two forces locked in perfect balance. Through the pain, she saw flashes, memories not her own. Kale, younger, standing among wolves who turned their backs on him. His exile. His rage. His loneliness. And then she saw herself, bleeding, rejected, lost. Two broken souls, drawn by fate long before they met. The light exploded upward, bursting into the sky like a beacon. When it faded, the world fell silent again. Selene slumped forward, trembling. Kale caught her, holding her upright. His breath was ragged, his eyes burning gold and silver at once. "It worked," Vera whispered, awe in her voice. "You did it." Selene looked up at Kale. "What did we do?" Kale smiled faintly. "We became what we were meant to be." The connection between them changed after that. Selene could feel him now, the rhythm of his heartbeat, the hum of his power under her skin. When he moved, she felt it. When he was near, the air itself seemed to thrum with quiet thunder. It was terrifying. And intoxicating. That night, Kale found her standing on the balcony again, watching the moon rise over the forest. The light shimmered across her skin, silver and soft. "You're glowing again," he said quietly. "You make it sound like a problem." He stepped closer. "It is. Because every time you do, I forget what's mine and what's yours." Selene turned to face him. "Does it matter?" For a heartbeat, he didn't answer. Then his hand rose, brushing her cheek. "It will." The silence between them stretched, thick with everything they hadn't said. Then Kale sighed, stepping back. "Rest. We ride at dawn. Darius will move soon." Selene nodded, but as he turned to leave, she caught his hand. "Kale." He paused. "You said we became what we were meant to be," she said softly. "What if what we're meant to be breaks the world?" Kale's gaze softened, but his words were steel. "Then we'll build a new one from its ashes." Far beyond the Shadowlands, in the Bloodfang stronghold, Darius stood over a map, his hands braced on the table. Around him, his generals waited. "She has the goddess's power," one of them said. "We can't face that." Darius's eyes burned with fury. "We can. Because power that feeds on emotion can be broken by it." He looked toward the horizon, where the moon rose high over the mountains. "If she's tied to him, we'll tear them apart from each other. She'll come to me, willingly or not." As thunder rolled over the land, the war drums of Bloodfang began to beat. And in the heart of the Shadowlands, Selene felt the tremor, a whisper of warning echoing through her bond with Kale. His coming. She closed her eyes, the silver light under her skin flaring in answer. "So am I," she whispered. The morning Kale's army prepared to march, the sky refused to lighten. The clouds hung heavy, swollen with storm, and the air itself seemed to buzz with tension. Every wolf, every soldier, every blade in the Shadowlands carried the weight of what was coming. Selene stood in the courtyard, the cool wind tugging at her hair. She was dressed for battle now, black leather armor with silver patterns across the chest, shaped like moonlight frozen in motion. The moment she saw her reflection in the water trough, she barely recognized herself. The weak girl who once begged for her mate's acceptance was gone. Kale emerged from the fortress gates, his armor gleaming dark as midnight. He looked every inch the Shadow King, his presence commanding, his power rippling like heat off steel. But his eyes softened when they found her. "You're ready," he said quietly. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied. He stepped closer, his gaze searching hers. "Stay close to me in the fight. If the bond between us wavers." "It won't," she said, cutting him off. He hesitated, then nodded. "Then let's finish what he started." They rode into the forest with hundreds behind them. The sound of hooves and paws thundered through the trees, a living heartbeat of war. The path wound through mist and shadow until it opened onto the Valley of Thorns, crossing a stretch of open land that led directly to Bloodfang territory. Kale reined his horse to a halt. His waiting. And he was. Across the field, Darius Kane stood at the head of his pack, flanked by hundreds of wolves. The Bloodfang banners rippled crimson and silver behind him, and his cold grey eyes locked on Kale like a predator spotting prey. For a long moment, silence ruled the field. The wind whispered through the grass, carrying the faint scent of rain. Then Darius dismounted, walking forward until he stood halfway between them. "Shadow King," he called. "You bring her to die with you?" Selene stepped forward before Kale could speak. "You can stop pretending you ever cared about me, Darius. I know what you did." He smirked, though his voice held a tremor. "I did what I had to. You were dangerous, too dangerous. The moon's gift should never have been yours. It wasn't your choice to make." Darius's jaw clenched. "You think he saved you? His cursed, Selene. His power is born from death and ruin. You've bound yourself to a monster." Kale's eyes burned gold. At least she bound herself to someone who saw her worth. Darius's expression twisted. "And what happens when the curse takes her, too? When your shadows consume her light?" "Enough." Selene's voice cracked like thunder. The sky shivered, silver light sparking from her palms. "This ends today, one way or another." The battle began with a roar. Wolves charged across the field, claws meeting steel, power colliding with power. The earth shook beneath their fury. Selene fought beside Kale, her light slicing through the darkness of the battlefield. Wherever she moved, the ground glowed silver. Her energy flowed like liquid moonlight, deflecting blades and burning through shadows. Kale fought like a god of war, his sword a blur, his movements relentless. Every strike he made was precise, brutal, final. But Darius was just as fierce. He cut through Kale's warriors with ruthless efficiency, his wolf form massive and gleaming silver under the storm clouds. Lightning split the sky. Rain began to fall. Selene spun, knocking a Bloodfang warrior to the ground, and looked up just in time to see Darius charging toward Kale. Kale met him head-on. Their wolves collided, shadow against silver, fury against fury. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the field, scattering warriors like leaves in the wind. Selene screamed, her power bursting outward in a desperate wave to shield Kale, but Darius's claws raked deep into his side. Kale roared in pain and slammed Darius back with a burst of shadow. The two circled each other, snarling, their power lighting the rain-soaked ground with flashes of black and silver. "Admit it," Darius snarled. "You're no better than me. You kill to keep control. You rule through fear." Kale's eyes blazed. "I rule because I survived what you never could." Their clash sent sparks into the storm. Selene could feel her heart tearing in two. Every time Kale bled, she felt it, through the bond, through her soul. The pain was unbearable. She ran forward, raising her hands. "Stop." Both alphas turned toward her, their power colliding midair. Light and shadow crashed together, meeting in a blinding explosion. The shockwave threw everyone to the ground. Selene landed hard, gasping. The air around her hummed, silver and dark energy swirling like a storm trapped in her chest. "Selene," Kale shouted, struggling to his feet. But she couldn't hear him. The power was too loud. It clawed at her, begging to be released. Her eyes glowed pure white as she screamed, and the world shattered. When the light faded, silence fell. The battlefield was gone, replaced by scorched earth and rain-soaked ash. The moon hung low and red, watching in eerie stillness. Bodies lay still across the field, both shadow and Bloodfang warriors alike. The power that had erupted from her had ended the battle in an instant. Kale stumbled toward her, his steps heavy. "Selene." She stood in the center of the destruction, trembling, her eyes fading back to their natural color. I didn't mean to. He caught her before she could fall. You saved us. Her voice broke. I killed them. He held her tighter. You ended a war that would have never stopped. That's not death, Celine. That's mercy. But her tears fell anyway, hot against his armor. Then why does it feel like the goddess is weeping with me? That night, the Shadowlands buried their dead. The fires burned low, and the air was heavy with mourning and victory. Cale stood apart from the others, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Celine approached quietly, wrapped in a cloak, her expression pale but resolute. You should rest, he said without turning. So should you, she replied softly. He smiled faintly. You always find a way to talk back. She stepped closer. I'm not sorry. For what? For what I did. For what we did. She looked at him, her voice steady. If destruction was what it took to stop him, then I'd do it again. Cale turned toward her finally. Good. Because the world will come for us now. Her heart skipped. What do you mean? The Pax will hear about what happened here. About you. About the light that destroyed armies. Some will see you as hope. Others as a weapon. Celine's throat tightened. And you? He looked at her with quiet intensity. I see you as both. Days turned to weeks, and the Shadowlands began to rebuild. The scars of battle faded, but peace was uneasy, fragile as glass. Celine spent most mornings training, learning how to balance her gift without letting it consume her. Cale trained with her, pushing her limits, testing her patience. One morning, after hours of sparring, she dropped her staff and glared at him. You're impossible. He smirked. And you're predictable. Predictable, she echoed. You strike when you're angry. You hesitate when you care. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You can't afford either. Celine lifted her chin. Then maybe you should stop distracting me. Cale chuckled softly, and for a rare moment, warmth softened his sharp edges. You think I distract you? You know you do. His eyes glimmered. Good. The tension between them tightened like a drawn bowstring. Then Vera's voice broke it from across the courtyard. Enough flirting, you two. We have visitors. They turned to see 3 wolves approaching, cloaked and cautious. They carried no weapons, only the banners of the Silver Moon Pack, a neutral clan from the northern mountains. Their leader, a tall woman with silver eyes, bowed low. We come seeking the Moon-Blessed. Celine blinked. Me? Yes, the woman said. Word of your power reached us. The Packs are restless. Some want to follow you. Others want to end you before you can rise. Cale's gaze hardened. Then they'll answer to me. The woman met his eyes evenly. The world won't bow to shadows forever, King. But it might kneel for light. Celine's pulse quickened. What are you saying? That the goddess didn't choose you to hide in this forest, the woman said. She chose you to unite what's left of the wolves. Silence fell. Cale's expression was unreadable, but she could feel the storm in him. When the envoys left, Celine turned to him. She's right. We can't stay here forever. This is our home, he said. Our sanctuary. It's also a cage, she said softly. And I wasn't made to hide anymore. Cale's eyes met hers, gold meeting silver. You want to lead them? I want to heal them, she said. The Pax, the world, us. He exhaled, the weight of centuries in his voice. If you walk that path, Celine, there's no coming back. She smiled faintly. Then walk it with me. That night, they stood together beneath the moon, the forest whispering around them. The bond between them pulsed brighter than ever, light and shadow perfectly entwined. Cale brushed a hand along her jaw, his voice low. Do you know what you've done to me? Celine smiled softly. You mean saved you? He shook his head. No. You made me believe again. The air shimmered with the hum of their power. Light and dark coiled together, glowing brighter until it painted the night sky in silver and gold. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the moon goddess watched with quiet pride. The bridge has been forged, her voice whispered through the wind. Now the world must decide whether to cross or burn. Celine rested her forehead against Cale's chest, listening to his heartbeat. Whatever comes next, she said, We face it together. Kale's hand found hers. Always. The storm clouds parted, revealing a sky full of stars. And as the moon bathed them both in light, the Shadowlands, once cursed and broken, glowed for the first time in centuries. The moon rose blood-red the night the goddess called her name. Selene had just returned from patrol, her armor still streaked with dirt and sweat, when the air around her shifted. The temperature dropped, and the sky darkened until even the stars vanished. "Kale," she called, turning sharply. But it wasn't him who answered. "Come to me, child of the moon." The voice echoed inside her skull, soft and infinite. It wasn't sound, it was feeling, wrapping around her heart like silk and fire. She fell to her knees, clutching her chest as the light within her began to pulse faster, harder, until it was all she could see. Then the world dissolved. When Selene opened her eyes, she was standing in a field of silver grass beneath a sky of endless twilight. A full moon hung above, massive and luminous. Its light touched everything, yet there was no warmth. She was alone. Or so she thought. Out of the mist stepped a figure, tall, cloaked in moonlight, eyes glowing like stars. Her beauty was impossible, terrifying. Power radiated from her like a storm barely contained. Selene fell to her knees. "Goddess. Rise," the moon's voice said, both gentle and commanding. "You've carried my gift longer than you were ready. Now you must prove you are worthy to keep it." Selene's pulse stuttered. "What do you mean? Power given without trial breeds chaos. The light within you must be tested. Only one who faces their deepest truth can wield it without ruin." Selene swallowed hard. "What truth?" "The one you fear most." Before Selene could answer, the field vanished and she was standing again in the ruins of her old Pax territory. The Bloodfang compound loomed before her, whole and unbroken as it had been before Darius's war. Wolves moved through the courtyard, laughing, talking, alive. Her heart twisted. It was like stepping back into a life that had once belonged to someone else. Then she saw herself standing there in a simple dress, her hair braided, her face full of hope. And beside her was Darius. He smiled the way he used to, his hand brushing her cheek. "You were always meant to be mine," he whispered. Selene froze. "This isn't real." But her younger self smiled back, eyes full of love. "It feels real," the reflection said. "You still miss it, don't you?" "No," Selene said. "Not anymore. Liar." The younger version stepped closer, her smile turning cruel. "You wanted him to love you. You begged for it. Even now, you crave his approval." Selene's chest ached. "No, I wanted to be enough." "Enough for him," the echo sneered. "Or enough for yourself." The courtyard around them began to crumble, the air thick with dust and whispers. Selene screamed, clutching her head. "I don't need him." "Then prove it," the goddess's voice whispered through the storm. "Release him." Darius's image appeared again, stepping out of the mist. "You can't," he said softly. "Because I'm still inside you." Selene's hands began to glow. "Then I'll burn you out." Light burst from her palms, striking through the illusion. Darius's form shattered like glass, dissolving into dust that scattered on the wind. The storm cleared. The moon blazed brighter above her. The goddess's voice returned, soft but filled with power. "Well done. You have faced your wound. But the trial is not complete." Selene turned, breathing hard. "There's more. Always." And then the world shifted again. This time, she stood in darkness so complete she couldn't see her own hands. A heartbeat echoed, steady and powerful. "Kale," she whispered. A shadow formed in front of her. Tall. Familiar. Eyes glowing faint gold. But something was wrong. His gaze was hollow, his expression cold. "You think you saved me," he said. "But all you did was chain yourself to a monster." Selene stepped back. "You're not him." "Am I not?" The shadow's voice deepened, dripping with venom. "You saw what I am, the darkness that feeds on fear. The curse that ends everything it touches. You really think you'll be different?" Selene's breath shook. "I don't believe that." The shadow moved closer. "You will. When my curse consumes you, when your light fades into my dark. That's how this ends, Selene. Not in love. In ruin. He reached out, and his hand passed straight through her chest. Pain flared, searing like fire and ice. You'll lose yourself to me, he whispered. Just as I lost myself to the curse. Celine fell to her knees, tears streaking her face. No. I choose him, not his curse. The shadow laughed. You can't separate them. Then I'll take both. Her light flared, wild and fierce, pushing back the darkness. I love him, his scars, his shadows, his heart. And I'll burn through any curse to keep him. The darkness screamed as the light engulfed it. When it cleared, she stood alone beneath the moon again. The goddess appeared, smiling faintly. You have passed the trial, child of light. You are no longer a bearer of power. You are its master. Celine bowed her head. What now? Now you wake. The world is waiting. Celine gasped as her eyes flew open. She was back in her chamber, Kale sitting beside her, worry etched deep in his face. You stopped breathing, he said hoarsely. I thought I'd lost you. She reached for him, her fingers trembling. The goddess tested me. His eyes searched hers. And I faced what I feared most, she whispered. Losing myself. Losing you. And I realized. I don't have to choose between shadow and light. I am both. Kale exhaled slowly, relief softening his expression. Then you've finally become what she intended. Celine nodded. The bridge. He cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheek. Then the world had better pray it never tries to cross you. Dawn broke with a strange stillness, the kind that comes before everything changes. Kale stood on the balcony overlooking the forest, his hand resting on the railing. He could feel it, the energy thrumming through the air, gathering like a rising tide. The other packs were moving. Darius's message had spread across kingdoms. The Moonblessed has turned her light against the wolves. They were coming not just for him now, but for her. Celine joined him, her presence soft but steady. Her silver eyes shone faintly, and her aura seemed to hum with quiet strength. They're uniting, she said. Kale nodded grimly. Fear makes allies of enemies. Then we give them something greater than fear, she said. He turned to her. Hope. Truth, she said simply. If they come to destroy what they don't understand, then we'll make them see it. Kale studied her face, her determination. You sound like a queen. Celine smiled faintly. Maybe it's time the world had one. By noon, the Shadowlands army gathered on the plains outside the castle, thousands strong, shadows blending with moonlight. The sky was heavy with storm clouds, the air charged with magic. Kale stood before them, armor gleaming black and silver. Beside him, Celine wore a flowing cloak of pale light that shimmered like starlight itself. Vera and Torin knelt first, heads bowed. One by one, the others followed. Speak, Kale said quietly. Celine stepped forward. 4 centuries, we've lived divided, wolves of shadow, wolves of light. We called each other cursed, unworthy, enemies. But the goddess never meant for us to be separate. Her voice grew stronger, carrying across the field. We are one. The same blood. The same moon. The same destiny. And I won't let fear decide who we are anymore. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Warriors exchanged uncertain glances. Kale's voice rang out, deep and steady. You heard your queen. Those who stand with her stand with me. Those who don't will kneel before no one. Thunder rumbled in answer. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then the first wolf, Vera, howled. The sound spread like wildfire, one voice after another joining until the air trembled with unity. Kale looked at Celine, pride softening his sharp features. You've done what no king could. Celine smiled through tears. We've done it together. But peace would not come easily. As the crowd began to disperse, a scout rushed forward, breathless. Your Majesty, King Kale, Bloodfang banners spotted at the eastern ridge. Kale's smile vanished. Already? They move fast, the scout panted. And they've brought allies. Celine's expression hardened. Then we face them now. Before they reach our people. Kale grasped her wrist. You've already done enough. She met his gaze, eyes blazing silver. This is my war too, Kale. My light started it. My light will end it. He searched her face, then nodded once. Then we end it together. They rode into battle beneath a sky split with lightning. The armies collided once more on the border of the Shadowlands, the air alive with thunder and fire. But this time, Selene was not afraid. She called her power forth, and it answered willingly. Silver light wrapped around her, forming wings of radiance that lifted her above the field. Below, Kale's shadows rose to meet her, swirling in perfect rhythm. Light and darkness danced together, unstoppable. Darius's army faltered under the force. When Darius himself appeared again, his face twisted in disbelief, she hovered above him, glowing like a star. It's over, she said. He spat. You think you've won? You're no goddess, you're a weapon. She landed, her feet silent on the shattered ground. A weapon can be aimed. A goddess chooses. Her light flared, and for the final time, Darius's power broke. His wolves scattered, their loyalty crumbling like dust. Kale joined her side, his hand finding hers as the battlefield fell silent. The storm broke, rain pouring down, washing blood and fire away. Selene looked at Kale, her voice trembling but firm. It's done. He squeezed her hand. It's begun. That night, under a new moon, the Shadowlands held its first peace in centuries. Kale and Selene stood on the balcony overlooking their realm. The forest glowed faintly, reborn under her light. Kale turned to her, voice low. So, my queen of shadow and moon, what will you do now? Selene smiled softly. Lead them. Heal them. And maybe, learn to live for something more than war. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. And me. She leaned closer, whispering, you already know the answer. Their lips met under the rising stars, light and shadow entwined, no longer in battle but in harmony. And far above, the goddess's voice drifted through the wind once more. The world is whole again. For now. But every light casts a shadow, and every shadow remembers the light. Weeks passed since the last battle, and the Shadowlands began to breathe again. The war had ended, the borders were quiet, and the packs, once divided by fear and pride, now sent emissaries to swear allegiance to the new queen. Selene stood before the great mirror in her chamber as the dawn broke across the valley. Her reflection was not the girl who'd been rejected beneath the blood moon. Her eyes glowed faintly silver, and her presence filled the room with calm, commanding energy. She wore a gown of woven silk and leather, midnight black with threads of silver that caught every beam of light. Her hair, once wild and unbound, now fell in a single long braid, tied with a small charm Kale had given her, shaped like a crescent moon. She smiled faintly. The goddess has a cruel sense of irony, she murmured. Kale stepped into the room, his reflection appearing behind hers in the mirror. Why? Selene turned to face him, a teasing light in her eyes. Once I begged to belong to a pack. Now the world wants to belong to me. Kale's lips curved into a soft smirk. And how does it feel to be worshipped? Selene tilted her head. Lonely. He stepped closer until his shadow merged with hers. Not anymore. Their foreheads touched for a brief, quiet moment. The bond between them pulsed, warm and alive. The calm before another storm. Vera entered without knocking. Forgive me, but the council has arrived, Your Majesty. Selene sighed. Of course they have. The Council of Wolves gathered in the throne hall, a vast room carved from obsidian and lit by floating orbs of silver light. Every pack sent their leader or heir, Silver Moon, Ironfang, Frostclaw, even Bloodfang's remnants under a new alpha who claimed loyalty to peace. As Selene entered, the hall fell silent. The sound of her footsteps echoed like music across the stone. She took her seat beside Kale, his hand resting loosely on the hilt of his blade, eyes sharp and watchful. The first to speak was Alpha Rian of Ironfang, a scarred man with wary eyes. We've come to discuss unification, he said. The packs want to know what your rule means. We are wolves, not subjects. Selene leaned forward slightly, her tone calm. Then understand this, my rule isn't about domination. It's about balance. The moon and shadow will not chain you. They will protect you. A younger alpha, pale and brash, snorted. And if we don't want your protection? Kale's voice cut through the room like a blade. Then you'll need more than pride to survive without it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Selene raised a hand, silencing them. I'm not asking for obedience, she said. I'm offering peace. But peace has rules, respect, alliance, and no more wars over blood or power. And who enforces these rules? Another alpha challenged. Selene met his gaze. I do. A low hum filled the air as her power stirred, silver light flickering faintly across the floor. The room seemed to breathe with her. Make no mistake, she said softly. Peace is my gift. But defiance that threatens it will meet my wrath. The silence that followed was deep, heavy. Then, one by one, the alphas lowered their heads. The war was truly over. That night, the castle celebrated. Bonfires burned across the courtyards, and the scent of roasted meat and sweet wine filled the air. Wolves of all packs danced together for the first time in centuries. Selene stood on a balcony overlooking it all, the music and laughter below mixing with the rustle of the forest. Kale joined her quietly, holding 2 goblets. You should be down there, dancing. She smiled. I've never been good at celebrations. He handed her a cup. You're better at surviving them. She took a sip, the wine rich and sharp. They're not celebrating me, she said. They're celebrating freedom. Freedom you gave them, Kale said. Her eyes found his, the light of the fires dancing in their depths. Do you ever think about what comes next? When peace becomes too still? He smiled faintly. Wolves don't thrive in peace. But perhaps we can learn. Selene looked out at the horizon. The goddess gave me her power for a reason. And I don't think she's done with me yet. Kale's expression darkened slightly. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. Selene nodded. Together, she echoed, though a chill brushed her skin, a whisper in the wind that felt too much like warning. It began 3 nights later. The moon waned, and with it, the light in Selene's veins dimmed. The power that once pulsed steady and strong now faltered, flickering like a dying flame. At first, she thought it was exhaustion. But then she felt it, a hollow pull in the bond between her and Kale. Like something unseen was trying to sever it. She woke in the middle of the night, gasping, clutching her chest. Kale was beside her in an instant. Selene. She struggled for breath. Something's wrong. The bond, it's fading. Kale's eyes flashed gold. Impossible. He pressed his hand over her heart, closing his eyes. Your power, it's being drained. Selene's voice trembled. By what? Before he could answer, a deafening boom shook the castle. The walls trembled, dust raining from the ceiling. Kale drew his sword. Stay here. Not a chance, Selene said, rising despite the dizziness. If something's coming for me, I'll face it. They rushed to the courtyard, where chaos unfolded. The sky was black, no stars, no moon, just a void swallowing light itself. From that void emerged shapes, figures of shadow, darker than Kale's power, with eyes that burned crimson. Vera and Torin were already fighting, their weapons flashing. The shadows bled darkness when struck but reformed instantly, hissing like smoke. What are they? Selene shouted. Kale's jaw tightened. Ancients. Remnants of the old curse. I thought it died with Darius. So did I, Kale growled, cutting through one of the creatures. It dissolved into mist but reappeared behind him. Selene raised her hands, light flaring from her palms, but the glow sputtered weakly. Kale, I can't summon it. He turned, eyes blazing. Then use mine. He grabbed her wrist, forcing her palm against his chest. The bond between them surged, and his shadows flooded into her veins, cold, powerful, endless. Selene gasped as black and silver light exploded from her body. The darkness around them recoiled, hissing. Her voice rang through the storm. You want the moon? Then face her wrath. The courtyard filled with blinding light. Every shadow screamed and vanished into nothing. When the glow faded, the silence that followed was suffocating. Kale's breathing was ragged, blood trickling down his lip. You shouldn't have. Don't, she interrupted, catching him as he stumbled. You gave me your strength. He smiled faintly, voice hoarse. You've already taken all of it, Selene. And you can have the rest, if it means this kingdom stands. She pressed her forehead against his, her voice breaking. "Don't you dare say goodbye." "I'm not," he said. "I'm saying always." The ground trembled beneath them, the aftershock of power slowly fading. Above, the moon began to reappear, thin and pale, but there. Celine's strength returned slowly, her body aching with it. When she finally stood, the darkness was gone. But she knew what she'd seen, the shadow that had come for them wasn't gone for good. It was only waiting. In the days that followed, the Shadowlands rebuilt again. But this time, Celine could feel it, the fragile peace, the tremor beneath calm waters. She spent each evening at the balcony, watching the horizon as Kale recovered. "You're thinking again," he said one night, his voice rough but warm. "Always," she said softly. He leaned against the railing beside her. "You fear what's coming." "I don't fear it," she said. "I'm preparing for it." Kale's arm brushed hers. "Then we'll face it, as we always do." She smiled faintly. "The Queen of the Moon and the King of Shadows." He smirked. "Sounds dramatic. Destiny usually is." They stood in silence, the wind carrying the scent of pine and rain. The moon rose higher, whole once more, its light silvering their faces. Celine turned to him, voice steady. "This isn't the end, Kale." He nodded, his golden eyes softening. "No. It's the beginning of something neither of us can see yet. Then whatever it is," she said, "we'll write it ourselves." Kale's hand found hers, fingers intertwining. Together. Celine looked at the forest below, alive and vast, the realm they had fought for, the home they had bled to protect. She smiled, her voice barely a whisper. "Let them come. The light always remembers the dark." And far beyond the forest, where the sky met the sea, a sliver of darkness moved again, ancient, waiting, watching. The goddess's voice drifted through the wind once more. Even the brightest moon must face her shadow. But in the heart of the Shadowlands, the Queen of Light and the King of Dark stood side by side, unbroken, unbowed, and ready. If you felt the power of this story, the pain, the love, the fire, don't let it fade. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, and step deeper into my world of wolves, queens, and impossible destinies. The next chapter is already waiting for you.